Hi, Darren here again from UK Pro Tile and Training. So today what we're going to do is how to cut an L shape. So I've just marked this tile out here, and this is a real common cut that you have to do when you come to doing any tiling sort of projects. So this might be a cut around a window, or it could be a cut around a bath. So again, there's multiple areas that this could probably fit into. So I'm just going to take you straight away, step by step, of the process of how you're going to cut this waist in this L shape perfectly out of the tile. So let's have a look at stage one, which is scribing the tile. Okay, so this is the first process we need to do. We need to really guarantee that this is going to be a perfect 90-degree angle, because generally your corners of your windows are going to be 90 degrees. So we're going to mark the window as you would normally do it, and we use a square because that's 90 degrees on that side. So you'd square it up from the point like that, and you square that off to that point like that. So that's how you get your your L shape. So we need a couple of machines to do this really. So the first one is going to be a dry cutter like this, and the next one is going to be a wetsaw, which we'll move on to later. So the actual process is going to be you scribe the longer side first, which I'm going to do now, and then we're going to take it over to the wetsaw, and then we're going to wetsaw the shorter side. Then we're going to put it back into the dry cutter and use the breaker to break it down from the top. So let's get straight into this. I'm going to put this on the score line there. And then from the bottom of this line here, I'm just going to score the tile all the way at the top. And that's going to guarantee that gives us a perfect square edge, because this tile hard up against this cutter here is going to give us this 90 degree. So from here, so that's the first score line. Right, so what I need to do now is I need to move this over to a wetsaw. So I'm just going to take the camera over and show you stage 2 on this one. Okay, so now we're at the wetsaw. So if you don't know what a wetsaw is, it's simply a table saw, and it has a blade. It comes in 4 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches, depending on what size machine you get. And it has a water tank in here. So what you do is you fill the water up just enough to cover the actual wheel of this So the water's in here now. The guard is on the top here to stop all the water coming back. So what I'm going to do here is, I've already scribed this one in the tile cutter before, and I've marked this with the ink of the way I'm going to cut it. Now the problem is the ink is going to wash straight off as soon as I go through the water machine, because it's going to power wash it, so it all fades to feed it through. So what I've actually done here, I've also scribed on top of that ink line there. So it means that when the water is washing this away, it will wash into the scribe line of this actual tile, and that's going to be the line I can follow rather than lose it. Now what you've got to be careful here is, if you're cutting this exactly to the size you want, the blade thickness is about 2 millimeters thick. So what we want to do, we don't want to cut the blade on the outer side of this, otherwise that's going to cut 2 mil into the piece that we want, which is this piece. So what you've got to do here, you've got to make sure the blade goes on the inside of that line. So I'm just going to put some safety glasses on, because we don't want any of the chippings coming back at us. So the glasses go on here. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to align that, so therefore that blade, you probably can't see that, but that blade there is on the inside of that score line. So what I'm going to do now is align it up, and I'm going to run this tile straight through up to this point on the top. So let's go with this. See, I've cut straight through that line there, and these wetsaws are designed where they have the blade in line with this thin piece of metal here. So if you run that through like that, it will constantly go right the way through. So I could really cut that tile in half if I wanted, just by going all the way through. You're not restricted to this bar beam there. So now I have the first process, which was this line was scribed in the dry cutter. And now the second process of this wet saw cutting to that line there. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the dry cutter and I'm going to put this back in the dry cutter and we're going to finish this cut off perfectly like that. So now we're back over to the dry cutter. So again, I'm going to put this tire back in there with the original line that was scored from the top down to this point here. And then we're going to put this on the braking line of that cutter as if we're going to scribe it again, but it's already scribed. So we're only going to use the braking part of the cutter now. So all I'm going to do there, put that and hold it up. You can see that the braking line is on this central bar down here. So all we need to do now is put the braking foot of that like sort of tile cutter there 1 inch from the top. So now it's 1 inch from the top. All we're going to simply do is press that bar down and then that will take that piece out there. So that is guaranteed to be a perfect 90-degree cut in here because the measurement was marked at 90 degree. The tile cutter had scored that down there at a perfect like sort of parallel line to that. I've wet sawed up to that point and then I finished it off with braking and it has to finish perfectly into that corner there. So that is obviously your waist and that's simply the piece that will fit into your window or whatever problem you have. So nice little simple demonstration of like sort of any size tile, doesn't really matter. Just make sure that you don't do the wet saw first. It's got to be in the sequence of what I just demonstrated there. So just a quick recap. You scribe the line first in the tile cutter, and then you go into the wet saw and you wet saw down to this point, and then you put it back in the tile cutter, and then you break it 1 inch from the top with the breaker being in that position there. Don't break it in the middle, don't break it down at the bottom, it's going to fail. It's got to be 1 inch from the top, so we pop that down there. So first cut there from marking, scribe, wet saw, put it back in there. Should take you no more than 60 seconds to do. So thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave any comments, or if you want any other cuts to be demonstrated, just leave the comments there and I'll get onto them. So see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.